All right, I'm excited to be joined by my friend Jeff Lee, friend of the podcast. You've been on a few times to talk insurance, real estate, but this time you're back on to talk about something new. You're making a movie. Thanks for joining me, dude.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me back.
Look at you. You look like a kind of artist, like big movie maker, producer.
Yeah, my hair's a little longer than the last time I was on.
I'm glad you came on because we've been talking about this movie you've been making for a while now, and I know it's still in process and there's a lot of stuff left to happen, but I want to have you on. I thought it'd be a fun conversation for me personally, learn about what it's like to make a movie, all the thought process that goes into it, like the things behind the scenes that many people probably don't realize, and then all the things that you have left to do. So are you up for a conversation about that?
Absolutely.
Yeah, dude. All right. So movie is titled Baby in the Woods. That's all I know. Tell me about it.
It's going to be a 15 to 20 minute horror short. Can't give too much away, but it is set on a remote Maine island during a storm. There are two people who were formerly in a love triangle and have a lot of sort of underlying tension and past who are house sitting and out, imagine like an old Maine style house. I mean, New England, like fall, blustery wind. Yeah. Two people with some history. One of them is positive that she hears a baby crying in the nearby woods. The other is absolutely disbelieves that and has no inclination to go outside and check, but ends up going outside to check with her at her urging. Something happens outside. I can't say anymore.
And that's where we go. Okay. Where'd the idea come from?
It is the director's idea. It was his script originally. It's based on an experience he had many, many years ago out on a Maine island. The director, Ben Keller, has worked in film for a very long time. I ran across him networking in the industry, and he and I really hit it off. This was his script originally. It's gone through plenty of rewrites, and we've collaborated on it, but it's his baby, so to speak.
It's awesome. How long is a script for a 20-minute short? Is this like a pretty in-depth thing? I've never seen a script for a full.
A script is pretty short. It's formatted basically to give instructions, not too many blocking instructions. Most of that is left up to the director. It's very bare bones. So it basically boils down to a page a minute. So a 20-page script is about a 20-page movie.
So what's your involvement?
20-minute movie.
Yeah, I follow what you're saying. What's your involvement in the movie then? Are you a producer?
So as the producer, I am funding the entire thing.
Yeah.
But there's a lot more that goes into it. On a lot of features and bigger movies, there's something called a line producer who handles a lot of the logistics. For something like this, I'm doing the work of all producers, essentially. I'm paying for it, but I'm also dealing with all the logistics, all of the contracts for the cast and the crew. I was involved in location scouting, a lot of the aesthetic and art side, I've collaborated with the director on. We did the casting together, for example.
Yeah.
So I've been involved with a lot of the creative side in pre-production and all of the logistics, basically, which is a lot. It's like running a business.
I'm sure it is. I wouldn't even know where to begin when it comes to contracts. I mean, you working with entertainment lawyer type stuff, finding contracts online.
Hey, we're on a budget. I had to piece some of that together, but no, I had to do a lot of research. Actually, I had to research a lot. I ran some things by our friend Eric Collins, of course.
Friend of the podcast, yep.
But yeah, it's been a lot. It's like drinking from a fire hose. Again, it's like when you started in mortgage lending or I started in insurance and you're trying to learn everything on the fly. You remember that, right? You're trying to learn everything all at once while you're also operating the business, trying to close sales or whatever. In this case, it was basically learning everything on the fly and a lot of research, a lot of time.
It's the only way to learn things. You have to just do it. You just have to pull the trigger, make it happen. You'll probably mess some things up. You probably learn some things that you could have done differently, but it's making it happen, dude. I think it's awesome.
That was kind of the point of this, because when I decided that I wanted to get into film, I definitely did not want to go to film school. I thought, if I'm going to pay money for something, why don't I just jump in head first and figure it out as I go?
So I guess with that said, I'm trying to wrap my head around how it started. Did you say, I want to make a movie? You met Ben and it came together, or Ben found you, or it's just a random set of things?
So, similarly, because of my career, I compare everything back to business. It was just networking. It was I started going to film festivals. I wrote down the names of people of, smaller film festivals, local things, wrote down the names of people I liked who had written things or directed them. And it's like everything in Maine and even New England, it's a small world. Once you meet a few people, they know other people. And like, it was a series of lunches and drinks. And the same way, I built.
Yeah. Yeah. So I guess, okay, when you decide you're going to make a movie together, what's the first thing that you have to square away?
Probably budget. Like that was the first thing we went over. And what we really had to drill down on was budget. You have to figure your crew size, and then you have to start laying out the basics like location. That was the first thing we secured. Like we had to figure that out. And it took us some time. Like we originally wanted to make this last summer, but we got down to late spring. And it looked like, to me, it was just going to be like too much of a rush without getting all of our ducks in a row properly. So we gave ourselves an extra year. And with that extra year, we really were able to nail down the details. But yeah, it started with location. From there, we started doing casting. We had to make a lot of lists. There's so many little things that go into this, prop lists.
Yeah.
The next thing we had to get storyboards made. So we hired an artist to do a little bit of promo art for marketing purposes. And then also to do, I think he did like 100 little storyboards. It looks like a comic, like a very basic comic book that sort of lets the director speak the same language visually with the cinematographer. He can show them, this is how close I want it or how far, this is the angle, this is the amount of light. You can kind of like sketch that out quickly. Or I mean, we didn't sketch it. We had an artist do it, but
Super cool. So, okay, there's a director, there's a cinematographer. What else? Like, what does the crew size look like for a movie like this?
so even for a production this small, the basics are you've got your director, you've got your DP, which is the head cinematographer, director of photography. However, that person also needs an assistant camera person who actually handles the technical end of holding the camera, moving the camera. They need an assistant essentially to capture everything they need, because these cameras, these professional grade cameras, are not your iPhone or a camcorder. These are sizable pieces of equipment. So you've got your DP, your AC, and then you've got grip, sound, and gaffer. So the sound person is exactly what it sounds
Those
like.
3 words I have never heard before.
Yeah. This has made me read the credits of movies even more beyond like the cast list. I like to see now like who's on the crew and how big the crew is.
Explain these roles.
So,
because I'm curious.
The sound person is what it sounds like. They record the sound, and then the grip and the gaffer are basically handle like the lighting and rigging of things. So when you light scenes, it requires, you're not usually using natural light or just like whatever overhead light is in a structure. Like they've got to light it perfectly. So one person does the lighting, and then you've got people who also build and like do the mechanical side of rigging things, whether that's for sound, lighting, camera, whatever. And that's your bare bones crew. Like on a huge feature, like these big multi-million-dollar things we see in theaters, like there are probably, extrapolate that by 10 times each. You've got like a whole camera team with assistants and like riggers, and like it's wild. So, but even on a feature and on a short, like as small as this, but done professional grade, that's kind of the minimum of what you want. And then that's your technical crew. Oftentimes, we're not using hair and makeup on this, but you'll also have a hair and makeup person, possibly a wardrobe person, where this is a pretty basic Maine, these are Mainers on a Maine island. We don't have wild costumes, so we don't have a wardrobe person, but you've got hair and makeup, you've got wardrobe, and then there's usually a PA, which is just your general admin, gopher, get coffee, carry this, move that, make sure this room looks the same way it did yesterday, so we have continuity between scenes, etc.
But still, it's a lot of moving pieces. And then these people, this is work for these people, right?
Yeah.
Like these are hired people. It's not passion projects for these people like it might be for you. I don't know if it is for the writer too, but like
the cool thing about that actually is many of these folks work on the commercial side, especially like on a production our size and in New England. A lot of these guys and gals work commercially. They do lighting, sound, direction, camera work for ads, bank ads,
they're professional,
like commercial stuff. Like, so if they come across like true, like a passion project, something that they can get interested in, they'll often, they're not going to charge full rate. This industry I have found is very malleable. Like if somebody really likes a project, they might take a little bit less than what they normally would to shoot like a bank commercial, for example. It's a lot different than my world, like where we do what we do it for the money. There's a little bit of fluidity in this where if they absolutely love a project, or if you get to know people, like you can kind of like get them, hyped on your projects. Like I think a lot of these guys, when they do their own side project, fictional work or theatrical work, they can tag in people that they know, often for on the cheap, which is how a lot of these things get made. It's an interesting world. It's very different than the business world that I came up in.
Everyone that works on this movie is kind of building a portfolio or building their portfolio, I would say too. So there's some benefits sometimes to maybe taking less or jumping onto a passion project just for the sake of saying they did something, and that maybe leads to something else. Or at least that's maybe the way that I would look at it.
Absolutely. That's absolutely right. And,
Yeah.
and there's a lot of passion in this, in the industry, a lot more than I would say among like insurance agents, for example.
Are you kidding me? It's freaking not even,
You
yeah.
know,
It's like
people can get, these
different
guys will
world.
get excited about a project and like,
Yeah.
they'll take a little less, like just because like they want to be involved, like for the exposure, certainly like career wise, et cetera, but just also to be a part of it. Even though they're
Totally.
technical people, they're artists as well. It's just
100%. Yeah. That whole creative side of things and making something and doing it as a group and having a finished product. You can't even equate. I mean, there are business aspects to it, like we discussed, but like it's two different worlds between mortgage insurance and making movies, at least for
Yeah,
the people that are on
it has been
the ground.
interesting in that regard, and a lot easier to network too. People are interested to meet with you, not just for what you can do for them, but like because you're simply interested in the industry and might have a couple of good ideas. Like it was a lot easier to book lunches with strangers in film than it was in insurance when I started.
I can imagine. But what's the scene for that sort of thing in Maine or even in New England? Like you're talking about booking lunches, but booking lunches with who? Like is there an active movie making scene in northern New England, Maine? What's that like?
There are a lot of professionals. There's a crew I know of, all Maine based, who just shot a film over about a course of a month that's going to be in the Tribeca Film Festival.
Yeah.
There's working professionals here, definitely. I mean,
So
it's
there's
not LA, right? It's not LA or New York or anything, or probably even some larger cities, but there are working professionals who do both the commercial side and the like the fiction sort of theatrical side.
casting wise, what was that whole process like? Just to be involved in the interviews and watching people
It was
act and
really
having to make
interesting. That
yeah.
was one of the coolest things so far, definitely. It also was weird being judgy, about like,
Rare.
everything we're told we're not supposed to judge people based on, their height, their weight, their hair color, but it's all about that
Charisma,
because,
looks, like screen
right,
presence, chemistry.
right.
I don't know if you had joint reads with multiple actors at one time, but like, yeah, it's different for sure.
Absolutely. Because we had to parse through folks because we're looking for a certain, like, if the character is a certain look that the director has in mind, or even a certain age, like you might have 100, we had 100 plus people audition for all three of the parts and had to narrow it
Really?
down. Yeah. But it was interesting just on the first go through. I mean, we didn't watch 100 auditions because just on the first go through, you could probably eliminate half of them based on like they weren't just the right fit for the role looks wise,
Yeah.
which is so interesting. Like we're not supposed to do that. It felt naughty.
So this person's too old, this person's too young, this person's
Exactly.
this person's that,
Yep.
and like you're out, you're out. And yeah,
Right.
it probably whittles down to a more manageable list after that first pass through. But what does casting look like from Maine? Are the actors that are involved, I don't know if you're sharing who their names are at this point, but like are these people from out of state too, or are they also Maine-based actors?
One is a Maine-based actor. One is from Boston, and one is from works out of New York City.
Nice.
What we did, the digital age is wonderful. There is an entire community online for this. There is a website called Backstage, which has thousands upon thousands of actors and job postings on it, and a lot of people find work through it. So we put out our ad on Backpage, on Backstage, and we had about 100 plus people for each of the roles. And once each of them recorded an audition, like using, like they had their own audition tape. And then if they made it to the second round, we asked them to audition with our specific lines from the movie.
Yeah.
So we probably watched, out of the 100+ applicants, we watched, I don't know, 20 to 30 auditions for each of the roles in the first go round, and then whittled it down to 10 people that we wanted final auditions with for each role.
And even those are done remotely, I assume, or do you ever
Yeah,
have like
those all it makes it so much easier. Everything was done remotely. People can just record because who cares about the picture quality, right? You're just trying to get a sense of I mean, it has to be decent, but like people shot these on their iPhones. It's very easy these days to do an audition.
what is your feedback on these auditions differ from writer director? Like you're obviously giving feedback, but like it's not
We were in the same room. We did it all together. And it was a good illustration of why we were doing this in the first place. We were basically on the same page about everybody. We were our opinions were very close. Like when in our final pools of people, there was not one of the three roles that we came to any sort of disagreement about. In the end, when we got it down to like the final two or three people, we both had one picked out that was the same one.
what are the names of the actors? Are you sharing that information at this point, or
I think I can share that at this point. We've got the male lead is Jax. He is going to be played by Tyler Costigan, who is from here in Maine. The female lead is Jess, and she is played by Alexandra Maresh out of Boston. And there is another female part, Allie, played by Michelle Gatpo, who works out of New York City.
it's awesome? I love it. I want to hear these names again at some point. So I'm glad you shared that information. Money wise, are there rules of thumb in terms of how much it costs to make a short film? Like, is it a certain amount of money per minute of filming? Is it just different based on every production? Like, tell me a little bit about the money side of things.
Sure. It definitely is not per minute so much as it's how many days you're on set. You have to pay your actors a daily rate. You have to pay your crew a daily rate. So, we're shooting we have a 5-day shoot basically. If you're shooting a feature, those things can go on for months. There's a pretty standard industry rate for crew and actors for smaller films, obviously. It does that's the bulk of the expense too, is just paying folks, crew and actors.
I would imagine, right? Besides that, what's the next biggest thing? Like location? Do you have to pay for your
Yeah.
location?
In this case, yes, because we're using one of the locations is an Airbnb and the other's a cafe, so we did pay for those. We're also
Is there
shooting
transportation? So transportation expenses for that 5 days? Like, do you have to house these people too, or
Yeah, so that's the cool thing. The Airbnb, the old farmhouse where we're shooting the interior scenes is large enough that it sleeps most of the cast and crew, and then I'll rented another little auxiliary place another little Airbnb right down the road where the rest of the folks will sleep. So it's like a 5-minute walk away.
you have to have food, like food for
Oh, yeah.
people?
Yeah, absolutely.
Do you have to have insurance on the movie?
Yep. Which was interesting. I've never written film insurance, but going into it as an insurance agent and chatting with the underwriter on that, it did make it a lot easier to ask the right questions and know what I did and did not need. But that was interesting.
Any other weird expenses besides that? Cast and crew, transportation, lodging, food, obviously insurance, like anything else that come to mind with this that people would have to consider if they were going to make a movie?
For this particular one, and it's just kind of funny, like the weirdest expense is a bunch of tick guards because we're going to be filming in the woods in September, like up north. And, don't want anybody to get bitten by ticks. So that was actually the director's idea. He's tromping around in the woods all the time. So we had to supply everybody with tick guards. But no, I mean, there's always weird incidental expenses, like for, situational things just like that. But there's all kinds of, it adds up. There's little stuff like we're going to do music, in post-production. We're going to get that done through, I think, the Portland Conservatory, little stuff. And then there's marketing afterwards, festival costs. It costs a few $100 to get
Your short film into these festivals costs money.
Yeah.
Okay. So you're doing some crowdfunding. Tell me about that.
Yeah, we, as many productions do, went slightly over budget. We've got everything we need to shoot. We're just trying to raise a few grand for post-production, which would be adding in the music and then basically the marketing of it, getting it out into festivals when we're done.
So I'll make sure I share the link on that, but it's easy for people. If they see this, if I share this, they want to donate to the cause. It's as easy as going to the link that I'll share.
That would be incredible. Yeah, just hit the link and smash that button.
And you would thank those people in the credits to the movie? Is that how that works? Like,
yeah,
is there like incentives for that sort of thing?
It's listed on the campaign. There are various levels to it, but certainly there is.
Okay, so it's like that. If you donate a certain amount, you get one thing. If it's more, you get more. So
yeah, like the highest one gets you an associate producer credit, actually.
I like that.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, what if there was like a super high level where you could be like an extra in the movie in the background or something? But Hey, that's cool. I'll make sure I share that information because obviously, like you said, these budgets go over. It's just
Yeah.
the nature of all things, not just making movies. Like, see it all the time. People estimate expenses and things happen and it ends up being a little bit higher. So you mentioned that you start shooting in September. When in September?
September 1st.
So we're talking a couple weeks away from now. It's going to be
Yeah.
go
Two
time.
week, 2 weeks from
5 days.
today.
Where in Maine are you filming? You said up north, but is that
Waldoboro.
Waldoboro? That's where the place is. So yeah, that's not obviously close to. It's not like it's right in Portland where you're from. So there's a little bit of a shift in everything up there, kind of making sure that you guys have a home base and all that stuff. Love that. I mean, so many things to think about when you're filming scenes. Like, do you do like a ton of takes, or like how long do you? If you're filming 5 days, you're gonna get probably what, like 5 minutes of footage each day, something like that.
No, they'll probably
Is it all-
there'll be more than that,
Well,
definitely.
yeah, but like
Oh, but
you'll
you
have a
mean
ton of
like
footage, but like
finished footage? Yeah. Oh, yeah,
yeah,
yeah. Absolutely.
full day's worth of work for 5, 6,
5 to 10
7 minutes.
minutes that you could have usable stuff. Yeah.
What are some of the things that could go wrong on set that you have to kind of plan for?
Lord, there's any number of things that could go wrong. Luckily, we have insurance for that. No, I am at like time. I think is the biggest thing. Got to keep things on time. That's also part of what I'm going to be doing on set is just making sure that we're staying on schedule. Like that's a huge thing. That's I think how bigger features often go over budget is because, like we were talking about, the biggest cost is the cast and crew. Like if you've got a 5-day shoot and it balloons into 8 days, your budget just went over by almost 50-60%.
Yeah. So you'll go into it knowing like these are the scenes that we're filming today. This is like where we need to be halfway through the day, end of day.
Yep.
And at that point, you'll know.
Exactly. There's a schedule for all of this.
Yeah. And there's probably like a little bit of a weather contingency too, right? Like if you're filming stuff outside and
There
it's
is.
just
We
downpour.
Yeah, we have planned night shooting, but for a certain day. But if we get good weather, it's Maine, right? It's Maine in September. If we get good weather earlier in the week, we'll grab that day.
Yeah. And you'll obviously be monitoring that. Are you going to be on set the whole time? Kind of checking things out. Love that. What's something about making a movie that you had no idea about that just part of the process that wasn't something on your radar until you started this whole process?
I don't know why, but it was probably just the amount of work that goes into it. There are so many moving parts. Like I said, like I got into it for like the love of film and creativity. And then it ended up being very much in my wheelhouse because it's my role basically is like running like a business. That was probably the biggest surprise was just how many pieces are involved in this. And now I can see why those big features cost as much as they do. There's so many people and so many aspects to getting this together, even just like the legal side, like legal and insurance, like covering those bases.
The producing side does sound interesting and fun. I think for someone like myself that like gets things done, can make things happen, like that's where those skills really present themselves as opposed to being a director or writer. Like you have to really have that creative bone in your body. And some people have that and some people don't. But like being a producer, it's like you can see all these problems and kind of pull things together. And I think that's one of the things that you're strong at. Obviously, it works out well in this situation.
Yeah, absolutely. It's also, like I was saying earlier, it's my version of trying to go to film school in a crash course because I would love to ultimately try my hand at directing. I have written some stuff, but I would like to get in the director's chair eventually. So this is going to be a great firsthand opportunity for me to see exactly how that's done by a professional.
Yeah, love that. Okay, so sometime mid-September, you're done filming. How long is the whole post-production process till the time you have a finished copy of Baby in the Woods?
Probably through the end of the year. There's going to be a lot of editing that needs to happen. And then we got to add music, a couple other fun little surprises. I would imagine we're done in winter, late 26, early 27.
Okay. So then where does the movie go from there, right? You talked about film festivals. Like, what are your hopes for the movie when you guys are finished?
Ideally, the pie in the sky hope for something like this is that somebody sees it and wants to turn it into a feature. The director has written 2 or other little 15 to 20 minute shorts. And ultimately, like if we ever got the funding, we would love to turn this into an anthology style thing, specifically about like the Northwoods, sort of like ghosts, cryptids, creepy stuff from New England, essentially. That's like a lofty goal. Yeah. For me, I would just love to get this out and go to some festivals, meet more people through it. Probably it's going to help a lot with networking. If we put together a very, very nice looking film, even if it and probably won't like make any money, it might open some doors. Essentially, is the hope.
I mean, that's not a bad thing to have that be the goal. I just wasn't sure how film festivals work and what people are hoping to achieve out of them. And the potential for something to get bought is obviously one path, but just meeting people, having the portfolio also makes sense. So, which film festivals? I don't know what there are for film festivals. Any come to mind, or still kind of sorting all that stuff out?
Still sorting that out. We haven't even gotten that far yet. We're really just, because of how much goes into this, everybody is laser focused on September 1st. Excuse me. We'll deal with that. Basically when the director is doing like the editing and the post-production, like I'll start working on that sort of research. There is a Maine horror film festival at the State Theater every October that obviously we would love to see it in.
That'd be awesome.
But, there are also genre specific kind of festivals. We'll probably look into some horror specific things.
But I mean, it would be getting too far ahead of yourself to be worrying too much about that stuff at this point.
Yeah,
It's like,
no, mostly everybody just wants we got to get this thing in the can, as they say.
but like that is a goal, to whatever degree it gets into film festivals, great. But like that would be the plan for you guys to do some level of that.
Yeah.
Will you release it digitally for like friends and family, or?
Yes.
Yeah, I don't even know what that looks like. Like, what would that be on, like YouTube?
Yeah, I'm not sure what the format is. I'm not the tech guy, but
like there would be a way for other people to see it outside of having to go to a film festival.
I believe that is one of the crowdfunding campaign highlights, or something that you can achieve, rewards rather.
So for your personal taste in movies, like what's your favorite type of movie? Is it horror movies? Is it something else?
That's a tough one, Randy. You know this. We've talked movies.
Yeah.
I am a huge fan of horror, although me personally, probably sci-fi, fantasy. That harkens back to like my childhood. That's the stuff I loved as a kid. I was a Star Wars kid. Love all of that stuff.
I'm right there with you, dude. But horror, I feel like horror is having a good run in the past 5-10 years. So
it is, and low budget horror specifically.
But yeah, movies like Obsession. There's a bunch of movies. And
yeah,
it's not like that movie inspired you necessarily to do this. You guys are going to do it either way, but it does show you what a good low budget horror movie can become. It seems like there's an appetite for original ideas, low budget movies. Like, yeah, never know. So
well, that's just it's really, yeah, I think the creativity and the original ideas is what the film industry could really use, and has seen, I think, in recent years, good influx of smaller studios, smaller creators. You don't necessarily need $100 million to make something that people are going to love.
Well, you do have Obsession, and I think it was made for less than $1 million.
It was like 800,000 or something.
Yeah, which is obviously a lot bigger than what you guys are doing, but I think it beat out Mandalorian and Grogu, at the box office. So, and there's a million people making movies, but again, it just speaks to the idea that if you produce some good stuff, like there's ways now to get that stuff seen, where in the past it probably would have been a little bit harder.
Well, absolutely. I love that. The same thing happened in music. Like there's a little in the digital age, there's a little more power in the hands of creators, which I appreciate.
All right. Well, that's a good way to end it right now. Excited for you guys to shoot in a couple of weeks. I'm so glad to have you come on. I want this thing to blow up, and I'll be like, I had Jeff Lee on the podcast to talk about Baby in the Woods back before they started filming. Anything else you want to share about the movie?
No, just, we're doing a local New England thing. We could use those last couple grand to get it out to festivals. If anybody wants to help out, it'd be much appreciated. And thank you so much for having me on, Randy.
Yeah, buddy. Appreciate it, dude. Good luck with the shoot, man. I'll be following along. Can't wait to hear more.